Hey everybody, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. Today we're going to be talking about a reversal trade. Yes, and essentially why I like this trade, what I was seeing in the markets to take this trade, and going into detail on what my thoughts were, emotions, all that good stuff. So before we get started, cheers. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you, and this one is for you. Perfect. Let's get started. We're going to drop down to the daily time frame. Awesome. So, on the daily time frame, what I was looking at was, hey, we actually came down to the consequent encroachment of this daily fair value gap yesterday and then traded higher. So seeing that, I was like, okay, we kind of want to see higher prices on the daily time frame just because we came down to that consequent encroachment level perfectly, as you guys can see right there. And that is why we probably didn't take out last Thursday's low, because we did trade down to that consequent encroachment of the daily fair value gap. And then we've seen this kind of wick happen. So I was kind of looking for higher prices on the daily time frame, potentially even if we just go higher a little bit for a reversal sort of move and then continue down throughout the week. But I was kind of assuming that we would want to potentially see a retracement. And I'll go down into that on the lower time frames, but you could even see it on here. So the daily, we take this high to this low. If we're looking for a somewhat of a retracement move, potentially up into these OTE levels before moving lower. So that was my draw on liquidity today, kind of seeing, hey, retracement potentially into those OTE levels. Let's drop down to the 4-hour. Awesome. Again, on the 4-hour, we came down to that daily consequent encroachment level, and then we have this kind of 4-hour order block right here. So I marked that out, extended it, seeing that we respected that price really well, and then we kind of moved higher. Again, we marked the high from the low. If we are going to go higher, we would like to see a trade into this 62 level, potentially up into that 7.705 level, these classic OTE levels. And we also had this 4-hour fair value gap. So I really was looking to see, hey, what are we doing around this level? Kind of what are we, just kind of looking for more information on the charts essentially. So came down to this 4-hour order block and then traded higher potentially to the 62 level. Let's drop down to the 1-hour. Beautiful. Again, we also had news this morning at 10 a.m. So Powell was speaking. I was expecting there to be more movement actually, but we kind of just took out these relative equal lows at 10 a.m. and then we started moving higher. What's another thing that's at these relative equal lows? Well, we have this sort of 1-hour order block here. So we wanted to see how the market would trade around this level. And as we can see, we wicked down, took out the relative equal lows, and then moved higher. So seeing that we took out that sell side liquidity, traded into that higher time frame objective of the 1-hour order block here, and then started to move higher. I was like, okay, we want to see potential higher prices just into like a retracement level, potentially into a higher time frame PDRA. Let's drop down to the 15-minute. Beautiful. So now we took out these relative equal lows here at 10 a.m. with the news. And again, since it's a reversal trade, I was kind of just looking for a somewhat reversal move, and we really only trade 1 hour a day, right? I wake up, I get my charts ready. I'm usually ready before 9:30 so then I can see what happens after the open. After they open, we kind of just watch the market for those 30 minutes, see what's going on. We did have news at 10 a.m., so I wanted to wait till after the news was done before entering into a trade. So we kind of just like watched the market. And then when we came down and we took out these relative equal lows at 10 a.m. with the news release, and then we had somewhat of a displacement higher on the lower time frames, I was looking for potential trade into this area right here, just because, again, if we're trading this 1 hour time frame, where do we want to go? Where do we want to see the market move next? It doesn't have to be necessarily the daily, what I think is going to happen on the daily time frame. It doesn't even have to be really the daily draw on liquidity. What I'm really looking for is, what do we think the next hour is going to do? What do we think the market's going to do in the hour that we're going to trade? Are we reversing? Are we going lower? Essentially just looking for what that hourly candle is going to do, right? Power of 3, we're looking for that. So seeing this, taking out these relative equal lows, and then seeing this kind of move higher, I was assuming we would want a retracement into the 7.5 level. Again, it has been moving higher, and we are probably going to take out this high right here, and who knows, even go higher. But because we're just short-term traders, we're not super concerned about where the market's going to go in the afternoon. We just want to know like where we think the market's going to go in the next hour. So I'll drop down to the 5-minute time frame. Beautiful. Again, we took out these relative equal lows, and then we had this sort of wick, and that's when I wanted to see the market trade either into this 50% level, but most likely this 0.705 level. So this classic OTE entry for short. So kind of reverse engineering the OTE on this trade, because usually you want to take a short at that level, right? You want to go short at that level, but since we are just trading the next hour, we wanted to see the market actually trade into this level. So I was kind of like reverse engineering the OTE and using it as a target, not necessarily an entry, right? I thought, you know, it makes sense. We'll drop down to the 1 minute, because this is really where I was diving in deep into price action. Now, keep in mind, the DXY was actually moving lower at this time. So because the DXY was moving lower at this time. So because we had confluence with the DXY, we could assume that the NASDAQ wanted to go higher, right? And since, again, we're only really trading the next hour, we just want to know where the market's likely to go in the next hour. And I think that is a very respectable level of the OTE. Even though we're not going to short at that level, we wanted to use it as a target for our longs, for our reversal kind of trade, right? Beautiful. So we had this like move down, and then of course 10 a.m. happened. We came down, we wicked these relative equal lows and traded into that 1 hour order block, right? Then we kind of consolidated a bit, came back down, and then we had this sort of displacement move. So after seeing this, I was like, okay, we're probably wanting to go higher into this either 50% level or, you know, the OTE levels, right? So seeing that, I wanted to see the market come back down into our 50%. So we have a retracement within a retracement. It's retracement inception. But we have this small sort of swing high here, right? We broke market structure. We have relative equal highs forming. We came down, took out that short-term sell-side liquidity. Where do we trade into? Well, we have two fair value gaps right here. We have this first one, which was my entry, and then we have this lower one, which we do have to be careful of because the market is likely to trade down into these levels. Now, my entry was at the 50% level because we are inside that 1 minute fair value gap. Plus, it's like a better entry. And if I want to place my stops at a reasonable level, that's the entry I have to go with or increase my stop, right? So our target was, of course, this OTE level here. And then I was honestly expecting it to potentially move lower, but in fact, we are still going higher, which is cool to see. But yeah, we have this swing here. I marked it out to that higher one right there, came back down, traded into this 1 minute fair value gap and this 1 minute fair value gap, but we took our entry on that 50% level, which is right inside of this first fair value gap. We took our entry and then we just kind of watched the market to see how we were going. Of course, we did trade up to that 50% level, which was beautiful. And then we wanted to see if the market would continue to respect PD arrays. I'll move this over so you guys can see it better. So we can even take another swing projection here, comes back down into those OTE levels. But what else is it respecting? It's respecting this sort of 1 minute order block here, and it is respecting this kind of 1 minute fair value gap here. So this could have been a nice re-entry into the market, came back down, but we just traded down into this order block here before ultimately moving higher. And this was right around the time of the 1050 macro. We do have another fair value gap here that the market trades down into. And then of course we continue to move higher into our objective. So these are the kind of trades I like taking because we have that retracement, we have that pullback into this 50% level, into the OTE levels. We have that short-term sell-side liquidity being taken, right? We took out these two lows. We also have our relative equal highs here. That is like an easy target. This was like an easy trade, right? We do have somewhat of a bump at that 50% level. So that's why we were watching the PD arrays to see if we are going to continue. Where do 3 PD arrays fail? Well, we have this 1 minute fair value gap. We have this 1 minute order block, and then we could also do the 50% of this wick, and that would have been a failed trade, right? So we kind of just wanted to watch. And then when we see the market continue to push higher off this 1 minute fair value gap, we want to watch this PD array. Is it respecting this 1 minute fair value gap? It is. And then this is like perfect timing because then we have the macro, and then boom, our trade hits. And that is a beautiful, beautiful entry for a reversal. Even though it might not be a reversal now. We might continue higher into tomorrow, who knows, right? But I'm always thinking like, what's gonna happen next? What are we aiming for next? We took out that like higher time frame, relative equal lows, higher time frame sell side liquidity before starting to move higher, displacement, short-term sell side liquidity, fair value gap. We have that OTE entry right there, beautifully I might add. And then we have our target. Of course, we could have targeted these highs, but I was just really happy with getting into this trade. And I mean, this is a 1 to 3 risk to reward, right? So all in all, beautiful, beautiful trade. And I think I read the market pretty well today, considering, you know, I thought it was going to be a reversal move. We are still going higher. We could potentially go higher. Let's delete this all. We could potentially move higher back into that 75%, right? We could take out this buy side liquidity, trade back up into this OTE level, maybe take out this high right here before moving lower. So sometimes reversal trades can be good, right? Sometimes a reversal trade can actually end up going much higher. And I did like this one again because we were respecting this 4-hour order block, so we did kind of want to see somewhat of a move higher off this daily fair value gap and the 4-hour order block. We kind of see that move happen, and I think it just all played out really well. Yeah. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this trade. I think it worked out in my favor. Again, it's a reversal trade, but what do you guys think? What are your thoughts? Did you take a trade today? I want to know. Let me know in the comments. And yes, I'd love to connect with you guys. But I'll leave that for now. I'll leave this here. Let me know what you think, and we'll talk soon. Bye for now.